What if your body whispered a warning and you didn't hear it? What if, at this very moment, there were signals, silent, subtle, and easy to dismiss, that could predict the next 10 years of your life? Signals that, if ignored, could steal your health, your independence, even your time with those you love most. After the age of 60, the rules change. A small discomfort is no longer just a discomfort. A skipped meal, a forgotten name, a little fatigue, they're not always just part of getting older. Sometimes they're red flags, signals from the body. And if we pay attention, they can become the key to living longer and living better. But here's the danger. Most people ignore them. Not because they don't care, but because they've been told that's just aging. They wait, they hope it goes away. And sometimes it doesn't. In this video, we're going to expose the 7 symptoms you must never ignore after 60. These aren't random fears or internet rumors. They're based on science, on decades of clinical observation, and on one sobering truth. When caught early, many of the most dangerous conditions can be stopped, or even reversed. You'll meet 2 people, one who listened to the signs and changed their path, and one who didn't. By the end of this journey, you'll know exactly what to watch for, and what to do when your body speaks. So take a breath. Stay with me. This might be the most important 10 minutes of your day. Comment number 1 if you're ready. Let's start with something many people overlook. That feeling of being just a little too tired, a little too often. Not the kind of exhaustion that comes after a long day, or the kind you feel after a bad night's sleep. This is different. It's quiet, persistent. It lingers. You wake up tired. You move through the day in a fog. And yet, you push through it. Because you think, I'm just getting older. But here's what the research says. When fatigue lingers for weeks without clear reason, it's not aging, it's a signal. In older adults, chronic fatigue is often one of the earliest signs of serious underlying conditions. Heart disease, anemia, thyroid dysfunction, even certain cancers. And in some cases, it's a sign of depression that hasn't yet shown up in mood, but is quietly stealing vitality. Harold felt it. He noticed it first during his morning walks. The distance he once covered with ease began to feel longer. At first he blamed the weather, then his shoes. But something didn't sit right. So, during his next routine checkup, he mentioned it. His doctor took it seriously, ran some tests, and found that his heart wasn't pumping as efficiently as it should. It wasn't a full-blown crisis, but it was a turning point. That early catch allowed Harold to start medication, improve his diet, and restore his energy before things got worse. Edith, on the other hand, felt it too, but she told no one. She told herself she just needed a vacation, more sleep. Maybe it was the Florida heat. She kept going. She hosted brunches, went to book club, smiled through the fatigue, until the day she couldn't. By then, the cause had already taken root, a silent buildup of plaque in her arteries, slowly starving her heart of oxygen. When she finally collapsed, it was her body's last attempt to be heard. According to a study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society, older adults who report persistent fatigue are at significantly higher risk of hospitalization and functional decline within the next 2 years. That's how powerful this one symptom can be. So, what should you do? If you've been feeling a level of fatigue that's new, unusual, or lasting more than a few weeks, especially if it's not relieved by rest, don't wait. Bring it up with your doctor. Ask for blood work. Ask for heart function tests. Don't let politeness or pride keep you silent. Your body knows before you do. Listen when it whispers, before it has to shout. Now, moving to the second factor that silently affects longevity. Shortness of breath. Not during a marathon, not after dancing, but while doing the things that used to feel effortless, like climbing stairs, walking across the kitchen, or bending down to tie a shoe. Most people shrug it off. I'm just out of shape. I haven't been as active lately. It's probably nothing. But the body doesn't make us gasp for air without a reason. Breathlessness with minimal exertion is one of the most common and most dangerous symptoms that older adults dismiss. It can be a sign of something far more serious than aging. Conditions like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, congestive heart failure, atrial fibrillation, even pulmonary hypertension or early lung cancer, and often it creeps in gradually. That's how it started with Edith. She first noticed it while changing the sheets on her bed. She had to sit down, just for a moment. Then again, when walking from the mailbox to the front door. She thought she was simply tired, or maybe it was the Florida humidity. But what was really happening was silent stress on her heart. A slow, progressive decline in function that made every step just a little harder than the last. By the time she reached the hospital after her collapse, her lungs were filled with fluid, a condition known as pulmonary edema, a classic sign of heart failure left too long without treatment. Harold had a different experience. His breathlessness was subtle, but he had already learned to listen to his body. It started while raking leaves in the fall. He paused, felt winded, and something in him knew. It wasn't right. He brought it up, and his doctor didn't brush it off. Imaging and stress tests confirmed reduced cardiac output. Early intervention again gave him the gift of time. Medication adjusted, activity modified, and breath restored. According to data from the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, shortness of breath during daily activities is one of the strongest predictors of heart failure in older adults, often showing up before other symptoms ever appear. So if you found yourself pausing more often, catching your breath after something that never used to challenge you, or avoiding physical effort altogether, please don't ignore it. Mention it at your next appointment, even if it feels small. Because sometimes, that small breath you're missing is the warning, sign you've been given. Another habit that often gets ignored is brushing off dizziness. It can feel like the room is spinning, or like your feet can't quite find the floor. Maybe it only lasts a few seconds. Maybe it happens when you stand up too quickly. Or maybe it comes and goes so quietly, you start to believe it's all in your head. But dizziness is never just nothing. For people over 60, it can be a warning sign, a signal from the brain, the heart, or the inner ear that something is off balance, literally and biologically. Edith knew the feeling. She started having spells of lightheadedness when reaching for a book or getting out of bed. She'd steady herself, wait for it to pass, and go on with her day. But what she didn't know was that her blood pressure was fluctuating dangerously. Her heart rhythm was irregular. Small drops in oxygen, repeated over time, were quietly affecting her brain. She fell once. Just a bruise, she said. The second fall broke her wrist. By the time she told her doctor, the underlying cause, atrial fibrillation, had gone undetected for months. Harold had a different moment. He was gardening when he stood up and the world tilted slightly. It was a new sensation, and he didn't ignore it. He sat down, took note, and made an appointment. His diagnosis: orthostatic hypotension, a condition where blood pressure drops suddenly upon standing. It was a side effect of one of his new medications, easily adjusted once they found it. According to a study published in Neurology, older adults who experience frequent dizziness are at higher risk for both falls and cognitive decline, because dizziness isn't always about balance. It's often about blood flow to the brain. If you've been feeling unsteady, even just occasionally, especially when changing position or after meals, it's not just in your imagination, and it's not something to hide. Track when it happens. Notice what you were doing. Tell your doctor, because the sooner the cause is found, the sooner you regain control. And that small moment, where the world felt off, can become a turning point. Not a tragedy. Here's the fourth behavior that slowly undermines your health: losing weight without trying and thinking it's a good thing. In a world obsessed with dieting, weight loss often feels like a win. Friends may even compliment you. "You look great," they'll say, and for a moment, you might believe it. But when you're over 60, weight that disappears without effort is not always cause for celebration. It can be a warning. Muscle mass begins to decline naturally as we age, a process called sarcopenia. But when that process accelerates, when the pounds fall off quickly and without change in diet or activity, it often means something deeper is happening. It could be cancer, a thyroid imbalance, malabsorption, or chronic inflammation slowly breaking the body down from the inside out. Edith lost 7 pounds in 3 months. She didn't notice it at first. Her clothes felt a little looser. She figured it was the stress of caregiving for a friend, or maybe just a smaller appetite during the hot Florida summer. But that weight loss wasn't harmless. It was the early sign of heart failure. Fluid building in her abdomen, pushing against her stomach, making her eat less without realizing it. By the time her weight loss raised a red flag with her doctor, her strength had already declined. Her stamina, her balance, even her ability to lift a grocery bag, all affected. Harold again caught it early. When he noticed he'd dropped 4 pounds without any change in his routine, he didn't ignore it. He brought it up during a follow-up appointment. Blood tests revealed a vitamin B12 deficiency and mild gastrointestinal inflammation, conditions that, left unchecked, could have affected his cognition and digestion. With supplements and dietary adjustments, the weight stabilized, and so did his health. The National Institute on Aging reports that unintended weight loss in older adults is associated with higher rates of hospitalization, increased mortality, and faster progression of chronic disease. And yet, it remains one of the most underreported symptoms among seniors. So here's what you do. Weigh yourself once a week. Keep a log. Don't panic over a pound or 2. But if you notice consistent loss over time, 5 pounds, 10 pounds more, bring it up. Ask about nutritional markers. Ask about thyroid, digestion, and systemic inflammation, because sometimes your shrinking waistline is a shrinking safety net. And the sooner you address it, the stronger you can stay. As we move forward, there's a fifth pattern that deserves attention. Those subtle shifts in memory, language, or mental clarity that sneak in quietly and settle without warning. You forget where you placed your keys. You enter a room and pause, unsure of why you're there. You search for a word that once came easily. It's easy to laugh it off. Senior moment, we say. We joke. We change the subject. But inside, there's a flicker of fear we don't speak out loud. Because deep down we wonder, is this just aging? Or is it something more? Here's the truth. Not all memory loss is normal, and not all cognitive decline is inevitable. In fact, Early detection makes a critical difference, not just in slowing down mental deterioration, but in some cases, in reversing it. Edith began struggling to find words during conversations. At first it was small, a forgotten name here, a missed appointment there. Her friends noticed, but said nothing. Neither did she. She worried people would think she was losing her mind, so she stayed quiet. By the time her daughter insisted she get tested, the diagnosis was clear. Mild cognitive impairment, progressing toward early-stage Alzheimer's. Treatment could still help, but valuable time had been lost. Harold had a different path. He noticed he was forgetting recent conversations. Not often, but enough to feel uneasy. Instead of hiding it, he mentioned it during his next physical. His doctor ordered a cognitive assessment and checked his blood levels. The results showed a vitamin D deficiency, mild depression, and early signs of sleep apnea, all factors that mimic memory loss. They treated the root causes. With lifestyle changes and support, his mind cleared. His confidence returned. According to the Alzheimer's Association, early intervention in memory-related symptoms can slow progression by up to 30%, and in many cases, helps maintain independence longer. So if you're noticing changes, whether it's repeating questions, losing your train of thought, or withdrawing from conversations, it's time to speak up. There's no shame in asking for help, only strength. Because memory is not just about facts, it's about stories, names, moments, and holding on to those is worth every ounce of courage it takes to act early. Let me share the sixth reason why many fail to maintain good health: intermittent pain that is easy to ignore until it is not. You feel a dull ache in your back one day. It fades. A week later it returns, sharper, more insistent. Then it vanishes again, and you go on. Chest pressure that comes and goes. A strange tingling in your arm that disappears before you can describe it. The on-again, off-again nature of pain makes it dangerously easy to dismiss. But pain, even when brief, is a form of communication. And for those over 60, it can be the earliest warning sign of cardiovascular issues, spinal deterioration, neuropathy, or even certain cancers that don't show up in blood tests until much later. Harold remembers exactly when he first noticed it, a squeezing sensation in the center of his chest while shoveling snow. It went away within a minute, so he kept going. But when it happened again the following week, during a walk, he paused. Something about the pattern, exertion followed by tightness, felt too specific to ignore. His doctor scheduled a stress test. The diagnosis: angina, a condition caused by narrowed arteries, early stage, treatable. Because Harold paid attention, he avoided a heart attack that could have struck without warning. Edith, on the other hand, felt pain too. But it came and went. A strange ache in her jaw, a tightness across her shoulder blades. She thought it might be tension. Poor posture. A new pillow. It never lasted more than a few minutes. What she didn't know was that women often experience heart attack symptoms differently than men. Less drama, more subtlety, more danger. By the time her pain became constant, her heart had already sustained irreversible damage. The American Heart Association has published numerous warnings about transient pain, especially chest or upper body discomfort, as early indicators of heart disease. In older adults, these signs often present atypically and vanish before a diagnosis can be made. So if you've felt pain, especially pain that returns under similar conditions, such as exercise, stress, or after eating, it's time to speak up. Keep a log. Describe the pattern. Share it with someone. Because a fleeting symptom is not the same as a harmless one. Pain is not always loud, but it is always a message. Finally, there's one last habit that might surprise you: ignoring changes in how your body eliminates waste. It's not a glamorous topic. In fact, it's one that many avoid out of embarrassment. But shifts in bowel or bladder habits after 60 aren't just personal inconveniences. They can be early warnings of serious internal change. More frequent urination, a sudden urgency, constipation that becomes chronic, loose stools that don't go away, changes in color, consistency, or even odor. These are not just digestive quirks, they're data, and your body is trying to tell you something. In older adults, these signs can point to colon cancer, prostate issues, urinary tract infections, kidney problems, or inflammatory diseases like diverticulitis or irritable bowel syndrome. And sometimes they are the first signs of a neurological condition affecting muscle control. Edith didn't want to talk about it. She noticed she was waking up twice, sometimes 3 times a night, to urinate. She started wearing pads during the day, just in case. She blamed it on aging, never mentioned it to her doctor, and told no one. She also noticed changes in her stool, more frequent, less formed, but again, she kept quiet. By the time she sought help, it wasn't a simple issue. A tumor pressing on her bladder had caused the changes. Early treatment could have spared her the most difficult part of the journey. Harold, on the other hand, noticed a change in his bowel movements over a few weeks. Less regular, unusual discomfort. At first he waited, but then he remembered something his wife used to say: better to ask and be wrong than stay silent and suffer. He scheduled a colonoscopy. Polyps were found and removed before they became dangerous. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, colorectal cancer is the second leading cause of cancer death among older adults, and changes in elimination are one of the earliest red flags. Yet many wait months or years to report them. So here's what you can do. Pay attention. Keep track of frequency, color, and ease. Notice if something changes and stays changed. Don't let shame or fear of discomfort keep you from speaking up. Because sometimes, the part of your body you least want to talk about is the part that's trying hardest to save your life. 7 signs. Each one small, each one easy to ignore, and yet each one a turning point. Harold and Edith were given the same signals. Their bodies whispered the same truths. One listened, one didn't. And the difference? It changed everything. Harold lives with clarity, strength, and freedom, not because he never faced health issues, but because he paid attention to the quiet warnings. He caught the danger early, he acted, and because of that, he continues to walk his path, steady and present. Edith, kind-hearted and full of life, now lives with the weight of missed chances. She didn't lack courage. She lacked information. She waited too long, trusted silence over science, and now carries limitations that could have been prevented. But her story isn't shared to bring fear. It's shared to bring power. Because every one of these symptoms, when caught early, can lead to a better outcome: fatigue, breathlessness, dizziness, weight loss, memory changes, pain, elimination issues. They are not curses of aging. They are invitations to act. And acting does not mean panic. It means paying attention. It means asking questions. It means refusing to dismiss your experience just because someone says, "That's normal for your age." You know your body. You live in it every day. Trust that. Your 70s, your 80s, even your 90s, they can be vibrant years, filled with clarity, movement, and connection. But that kind of longevity doesn't happen by chance. It happens by listening. So if something doesn't feel right, speak up. If a symptom lingers, write it down. If your inner voice says, "This is different," believe it. Because you are not fragile. You are not helpless. You are powerful when informed. Now, if this video helped you see something in a new light, leave a comment below. Tell us which number stood out to you most. Share your story. Someone else might need to hear it. And before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We've got more stories, more wisdom, and more tools to help you live not just longer, but better. You have one life. Listen to it. Protect it. Live it fully.